Alrighty, everybody. What's going on, guys? Good to see you all. Happy Friday evening. Kind of got a little bit of a late live here tonight. A bit of an update on the severe weather here for Sunday and Monday. Got some pretty big days of severe weather yet again coming up here. It feels like we've been literally nonstop, just full throttle severe weather for the last couple of weeks here. But I'm glad to be here, guys. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone is good. Now, I do have a couple of questions to answer before we get really on into it. First of all, Kayla wanted to know, it's been a while. Can I look at the zip code for Sunday night when I get a chance for the weather has been nuts? Hopefully, we'll slow down some. Yeah, absolutely. I can pull it up for you real quickly. I do want to go ahead and show you guys, just generally what we're looking at here for Sunday. They actually increased the risk. The enhanced that we had has become very much enlarged and also pushed a lot further south. So that is a huge, huge change. But for you, Kayla, let me go ahead and pull up your zip code here. You're actually in the level 3 threat here for Sunday. Now, given it is the day 3 threat, the Storm Prediction Center, as of right now, does not have any breakdowns, for the exact tornado, large hail, damaging wind probability. Although I do need you to absolutely be weather aware on Sunday here. We're thinking the main concern, damaging winds, maybe some tornadoes. So stay tuned for that. We'll obviously be giving you guys updates over the next several days as we do keep an eye on it. But anyways, let's see here. Caden says, hope you're doing well, but do I see the risk being moved northeast into Cleveland area? I do not think so. No, personally, I don't. There's not enough instability up there, and moisture advection is not as strong. Let's see here. We had 7 tornadoes in southeast Louisiana. Yeah, we covered quite a few of those. It was actually pretty crazy. Absolutely. It was quite active. Quite active, man, I tell you. Good evening, Sleeveless. Good to see ya. What's up, Jacob? Let's see here. Glenn Rose says, I'm terrified to see East Tennessee for Sunday. I wouldn't be. I mean, yeah, we do have a little bit of a threat for severe weather for far eastern Tennessee, but areas up by Knoxville, it's a level 1 threat. It's not necessarily anything significant, although it is an area we definitely need to keep an eye on for possible severe weather. The main areas are going to be central and western Tennessee, is where the big concern for severe weather would be across the state here. So just stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date and try not to worry about it. It'll be all right. What's up, Just? Good to see you. David says, hey, Andrew, what is it going to be in Liberty, Mississippi? We had a tornado come over us, Smithdale, Mississippi. We have no power until Thursday evening. Wow, that's crazy. Hope you're doing good. I think, Liberty, I believe, is in, let's see, I know I lost where Liberty's at. I know it's around here somewhere. Let's go and pull it up here. Liberty, Mississippi. Here we go. Perfect. So, Liberty's actually in the level 2 threat. Still, I mean, definitely need you to be weather aware here. Yeah, I think the main concern is going to be mostly damaging winds. We can't rule out a couple tornadoes, and maybe some hail. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But the thing is that down far this south, the wind shear is not as strong. As opposed to areas up further north. Although we do have higher amounts of instability down here and better moisture. Overall, we have better moisture advection, which could help the storm. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off. But anyways, bottom line, yes, you definitely need to be weather aware here on Sunday, as we do have a level 2 slight risk here for you. Let's see here. Let me see. Bryson, what's up? Good to see you. Hello, I'm scared for Sunday. I'm in Manchester, Kentucky. Don't be scared, man. We'll be all right. We'll get through this. And like I said, I'll be here to help you guys, stay up to date with everything here. Here, let me go ahead and pull up your area real quickly. You said you're up in Manchester, Kentucky. So let's go ahead and pull this up really quickly. So Manchester, for some reason, oh, there it is. I was going to say it showed up for a minute. Manchester's actually in level 1. So you're kind of outside of that big threat here for Sunday. So definitely in the risk area. We definitely need to keep an eye on it for the most part, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Anyways, all right, let's see. Agua says, guys, this is not a tornado event. This is a high wind event. You could still have severe weather, high winds. Tornadoes are on the table, but they're not the top threat. Yeah and no. Yes, I mean, tornadoes will be a concern and possibly a pretty decent one as well. Given that we have, great wind shear, strong lower level jet will be present. Good amounts of moisture being supplied. On the surface, we measure those in our dew points. Instability is kind of iffy. especially higher up north latitude, it's a little bit more iffy, as we're going to see in the models here in a minute. Yes, the main threat's going to be damaging winds, more than likely, but tornadoes will also be a pretty close second concern. So, what's up, Squashy? Good to see you. Teresa says, "Hey, Andrew, my son is heading out to work Sunday morning in Plano, Texas, heading to Memphis. Let's see, what do you got for us? Let's see here. I guess I'll pull up Plano real quickly, and then I'm going to get into the overall risk here for a moment. So Plano's actually in the level 1 threat. Yeah, nothing big on really Sunday, because you're right on the edge. That area's right on the edge of the level 1 threat. In theory, yes, there's a low probability we could see a couple of severe storms in the area, but generally speaking, it's not in the heaviest risk area per se. Yeah, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it, but the odds are pretty low. Let's see here. Does it look like a derecho? I mean, it is definitely quite a wind-driven line. But would it be classified as a derecho? We'll have to see. We'll actually just have to see. Is this pattern typical for a La Nina? I mean, yeah, it can be, absolutely, but there's other oscillations that you got to put in as well. It's not strictly just if La Nina or El Nino does these weather patterns. I mean, they can happen in any either oscillation. But yeah, I mean, it's just this time of the year. It's typical. Let's see, how bad will it be for Dover, Arkansas? Well, most of Arkansas is in the level 3 threat here as of right now. So, I mean, even outside in northwestern Arkansas, we do have that level 2 slight risk here. So, definitely, regardless of where you're at in Arkansas, you need to be absolutely weather aware. Let's see here. Bryson says, "Yes, sir, I appreciate it." Yeah, of course, dude. Let's see here. What's the tornado threat for Indianapolis, especially around Lafayette? So SPC does not have an exact breakdown, probability, as of yet. But Indianapolis is in the enhanced risk here, that level 3 threat. Now, here, let's hop over to models, actually. Let's just go ahead and start bringing up these models here. We're going to go ahead and grab we'll just go ahead and load up our composite reflectivity. So we're going to look at the RRFS model here. The HRRR is still not quite there. We'll have that probably tomorrow night here. But yeah, if we load up the composite reflectivity from the RRFS, you can kind of see it's just a really big line. I mean, a really big line. And, the main threat, once again, will be damaging winds. And, of course, we cannot rule out some tornadic activity here. Now, for Indianapolis, I'm actually going to grab a sounding from the RRFS here, and we'll just kind of analyze this here. So, wind shear, without a doubt, is very strong. However, there is definitely some limitations in this environment. One of those being we don't have a lot of instability. Our Cape values are pretty low. And having weak Cape values can actually hurt storm performance, definitely. This is what we call a high shear low Cape environment. So there is a lot of strong winds, not just at our lower levels of the atmosphere, but also going through the upper levels. Very strong winds, which are good to help organize storms. But, with an environment with not much instability, it could be an issue. Also, our dew points are kind of low. We're in the mid-50s, the mid-lower 50s. So typically you want your dew points in the 60s and 70s because high dew points supply a lot of moisture to the storms. And, the storms basically grab the air that's on the surface and they shoot it up into the upper environment, which, the lower atmosphere carries the most water vapor. So given that these values are pretty low, it could be a little bit of a problem. Now, storms absolutely can fire off and still dew points in the mid-50s, but I'm just saying, typical prime environment, you'd want 60s or 70s. But as you can kind of see here, the RRFS does kind of suggest the fact that we do have just a bit of a long line coming through, typical QLCS setup. You might hear that term, stands for quasi-linear convective system, really just a fancy word for saying a long line of storms or a squall line, basically. So, the main threat, absolutely, from what I saw, would be damaging winds, without a doubt. That would be, honestly, the main threat. Now, tornado-wise, I don't think for this particular area, tornadoes would be the biggest concern. Once again, I think the main problem you need to look out for is going to be damaging winds. So, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Let's see here. I'm trying to get to everybody, so I apologize if I accidentally go over your all's questions. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to keep up with everybody. What about Greenwood, South Carolina? So Greenwood, Here, let's hop back on over here real quickly. So Greenwood area, we do have. Let's see here. So we're actually out of the threat here for Sunday, but Monday. Yeah, Monday we actually have a level 2 equivalent, so it's a 15% risk for severe weather. Now, yeah, for here for going into Monday, you can actually see that they've extended the risk here a lot further south. That 30% risk. That also extended a bit to the north here. We have that level 3 enhanced equivalence for south central Pennsylvania, going through pretty much the entire state of Maryland. A lot of central eastern Virginia, central eastern North Carolina, and going into South Carolina now. Which is a pretty big threat here. Even the 15% goes all the way down into Florida. So Florida all the way up to pretty much the top of Pennsylvania. We have a big threat here for Monday. So it's not just going to be Sunday, but it's also going to be Monday that we need to look out for as well. We are Divine coming in with that $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Wanting to know about Indianapolis. Yeah. So we just talked about Indianapolis. The conclusion is that we're likely just going to have just a big line of storms roll through. More than likely, damaging winds is going to be the main concern. The probability is high because we are pretty confident in this line to roll through. That is going to be your main concern. Now, would not rule out tornadoes. I'm not going to say that tornadoes will be impossible, although I think that they're not going to be nearly as big of a concern as damaging winds for this particular area. So we'll definitely need to watch it. I think, once again, damaging winds will be the main concern here. We could see some pretty strong wind gusts here on this system, so we'll have to definitely watch it. Let's see here. Kayla says, thank you, appreciate you. Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. Goat says, what about Memphis? So Memphis is actually kind of right in the middle of that enhanced risk here for Sunday. Now, once again, it's just kind of a big line that rolls through here, but I'm going to grab a sounding, just before the line hits here. This is for 7 p.m. on Sunday. One thing I am noticing, though, is that, once again, our dew points, they're not low. They're definitely enough, but I'm noticing a big dew point depression. Now, basically, the dew point depression is simply your temperature minus your dew point, and that value is your dew point depression. Now, given that there is a pretty big gap between your dew point and your temperature line, this is actually going to possibly enhance damaging winds, having this spread. There's something called evaporative cooling, and as the rain falls through this layer, some of it actually gets reabsorbed back into the atmosphere and actually cools down the environment, which, as you know, cold air sinks, which can actually enhance that downdraft potential. So that in itself actually kind of screams that there might be, damaging winds yet again. I wouldn't rule out tornadoes. Given the high shear environment that we have, our hodograph is a little bit, we have a little bit of curvature to it. Typically what you'd want for tornadoes. And I think they could be possible, absolutely. But I think mainly, once again, also in this environment, kind of damaging winds would be a bit of a concern here overall. Absolutely. Let's see here. What's up, Seahawks? Good to see ya. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. What's up, Redbird? Good to see ya. Glenn Rose says, can I please take a look at the zip code to see for Monday on the models, if I don't mind? Of course. Yeah, I got you. I'm going to pull this up. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind in the chat, y'all. There's a lot of questions coming in, which I am happy to help you guys, but it just might take a little bit for me to get to, but I promise you I'll try my best. All right, so yeah, this is far eastern Tennessee here. So it's weird because you're kind of between days between Sunday and Monday. Now, the models that we were actually looking at this area earlier, not in this stream, but in the last stream we did, and it seems like the line maybe weakens a little bit by the time it approaches, and then it just kind of turns into a big scattered event here. It's weird now because actually the models are starting to show that line come back here, which is really why I want to see opinions from the HRRR model to really kind of just see where the big differences are and stuff like that with the models. But we're not quite there for the HRRR yet, but we're getting closer. But yeah, for you, it'll just be a long line coming through. I'll grab a sounding for you just to look at the environment here. This is a relatively low-caped environment. There's not a lot of instability at all. This is a low amount of instability. Storms would be working off fumes at this point. Also, moisture levels are kind of on the lower side, but our wind shear is ridiculously strong. This system, we're having such a strong low develop that it's actually really going to amplify the wind shear throughout the, not just the lower, but also the upper atmosphere. You can see this column is high sheared. So, yeah, the line could be intact. But severity would be severely hurt by the lack of moisture and the lack of instability in that environment. So I don't think you're going to see nearly as significant storms as, say, areas further west of you. So we'll watch it, though. Models could change. You never know. But we'll see what happens. Let's see here. Bond says, how is it looking for, is it Xena? Ohio? I do not know how to say that. Let me go and look for you, my friend. Let's see. We got ourselves. Okay, so you're up by the Dayton area. Gotcha. So yeah, we are in a level 2 here as of right now from the SPC. This is for Sunday. So absolutely, we do need you to be weather aware. Hopping back to the models, if we were to kind of look at the environment, you can see that line still pretty well intact as it kind of rolls through the area here. But I believe it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, I mean, there's enough instability, really strong wind shear, lower levels, interesting, but once again, a pretty decent dew point depression. Could definitely enhance maybe some gusty winds or whatever. Particularly this environment, I mean, it could definitely support some damaging winds, and I wouldn't even rule out a tornado or two. But it really seems like the base of the storm would actually be pretty high. So we'll just have to see, but. It really just comes down to the models, really. So, but regardless, I mean, yeah, you're in that risk there. We do need you to be weather aware on Sunday for sure. Anyways, let's see here. I apologize, y'all. I'm really far behind in the chat, so I'm trying to catch up to everybody. What about the pollen forecast? We're not getting into that right now. I really don't have the tools to look at the pollen forecast. See, a lot of local meteorologists are not happy about the new SPC SIG levels. Why not? In the beginning, I wasn't a fan of it, but the more I learned it, the more it makes sense, and the better it is, because the old system had a problem where, basically, it highlighted high probability and significance as one. Now they have probability and storm strength on two separate planes, rather than them kind of being combined and integrated together, no matter the risk. It really is good for these events where you have a low chance, for not as many storms, but potentially a potent environment, which now the new SPC outlooks are a lot better. Personally, like I said, I hated it in the beginning, but I'm starting to grow on it. I'm starting to like it a little bit more now. But it's definitely more, it makes more sense. I mean, yeah, it's a little confusing at first to some, but, it makes more sense. It really does. When's the day 2 outlook come out? Probably not for another couple hours. Matt says, hey there, hope you're doing well. I'm doing good, thanks for asking. What's my thoughts on Minneapolis? So Minneapolis, I think you guys are going to be well out of the picture here. Yeah, we're not going to see any severe weather. I do believe there could be some snow, though, on the system, if I recall. Here, let's pull up the precipitation type reflectivity here. Yeah, so, you're going to actually have a bit of a concern for a bit of snow, actually. Not necessarily severe thunderstorms, but, you're going to have to look out for maybe a bit of snowfall here. But we're going to hold off on the totals for a little bit. We'll probably talk more about that tomorrow. But, yeah, your main concern is going to be snow, actually, and not, not severe weather. So, let's see here. I'll go. Oh, you wanted me to speak a little bit more on it? Okay. So basically, for the tornado threat, there's 3 different SIG levels. You have SIG level 1, SIG level 2, SIG level 3. The probability remains the same. It's the probability of seeing a tornado. So SIG level 1 means that you could have tornado strength up to EF2. SIG level 2 means you could have tornado strength up to EF3. And SIG level 3 means you could have EF4 or greater. Any EF scale, basically. So the significance level just tells you how strong tornadoes could be, for the tornadoes. It tells you how strong they could be, while also keeping that probability detached. Because, like, once again, for an environment where you have only a couple cells pop off, but the environment is very good for tornadoes. In that scenario, they'd probably issue a lower risk, lower probability, but a higher potential. Does that make sense? So that's pretty much what that's for. And same thing for hail, same thing for damaging winds. It's just separating the probability from the severity. So, anyways, Matt said, I already read the one. Whoops. But yeah, you got to watch out for snow, man. You got to keep an eye on that. Let's see here. Let me see here. Do I think that the National Weather Service will upgrade to a moderate on Sunday? It depends on model guidance as well as the opinions of the Storm Prediction Center forecasters. It's completely out of my ballpark. Let's see here. What's up, Isaac? Good to see Illinois here. Do I think we could be moved into the enhanced risk soon? It depends. That your area farther north, out where you're at, kind of lacks a bit of instability. Let's see here. So you're up just south of Chicago. I mean, you have a level 2 threat. So I mean, that's already a decent shot for severe weather. But the problem, up this high, is kind of the fact that we're not going to have enough, or not as much instability per se. You can kind of see that the RFS really shows that line kind of broken and not necessarily as organized as, say, further to the south, as you can kind of tell. Further south we have more instability or more moisture. Our wind shear is a little less down here, given that we're further away from that area of low pressure, which is to be expected. So down here it's more of a high moisture, higher Cape environment. Up here it's more of a higher wind shear, lower Cape environment. Now, I don't know if you're actually going to be an enhanced risk. Once again, that's just something that's kind of up to the Storm Prediction Center as well as the models and how they trend over the next few days. But I mean, regardless, knowing that you're already in the SPC level risk, or SPC risk level 2, which is the site risk, you absolutely should be still monitoring the weather. But do I know if it'll be enhanced? I don't really know at the moment. Once again, just comes down to models and SPC. So. Let's see here. Late checking in from Lebanon, Missouri. Good to see ya. Hope you're doing well. How does Southeast Michigan look Sunday night? I mean, we have a shot for a couple storms, absolutely. So actually kind of going into Monday morning, my bad, would be when to expect some of those storms to roll through. But once again, the same thing kind of stands. This is a lower Cape environment, not as much instability, but a lot of wind shear. So it could make up for it. It really just depends, to the time being of how much instability will actually be in the environment, and stuff like that. Wind shear is not going to be a problem. Moisture could be a little bit of an issue. Instability is the main issue, I believe. So we'll keep an eye on it. But I definitely think that you need to watch out for it. See, what are those little blips by Memphis? Kind of scares me because of the environment Prime looks like. Oh, yeah, these guys right here ahead. Yeah, so the RFS model, I mean, remember, this is just one model, one run of the model. I still want to see guidance from, like, the HRRR come through and stuff like that, which I think we could probably compare to that now, because this is hour 48. This is the maximum hour that HRRR can go out. This model kind of shows the main line and maybe a few prefrontals, like a little line developing ahead of that. But generally speaking, I mean, the RFS does not show many prefrontals, which is good, actually. Having storms ahead of a line could actually put it in, a pretty nasty environment. It's really those discrete cells you got to really look out for. But, this is mostly a wind bag, with tornado potential and, of course, hail. But yeah, we'll just have to see it. But the model here, this is one model, does show a bunch of scattered storms maybe ahead of that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it could be completely gone in the next run. The HRRR here, if we actually hop to the 0 UTC run here, just to get a bit of a comparison here between the models, you can see that the HRRR does show that line coming through. Maybe a few storms ahead of the line, but nothing super crazy per se. It's just really the main line you got to look out for the most part. That's really the main thing that we gotta keep an eye out there for. Let's see here. Let's see. Sleva says, will it be a cold core setup, uptype situation? So it will be harder for surface-based storms, yes, in the upper areas out by the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. Given we have lower dew points, lower temperatures. It's definitely going to affect the storm base at which the bottom of the storm cloud will be. We call this the LCL, which is the lifted condensation level. That's basically the level at which a rising air parcel would finally reach 100% humidity, or getting into the point of saturation. I mean, it will affect the tornado potential being up that higher north, but damaging wind potential still remains for the most part. Let's see here. Like I said, I'm sorry for being a little bit far behind in the chat, you guys. I am actually really far behind. I really apologize. I'm just trying to keep up with everybody. Let's see. Will I run that storm through Ohio, please? Yeah, absolutely. Here, let's pull this back here. We'll go back to the 0 UTC from the RFS model. So, yeah, as we go down in time, you can see that line. It'll be roughly approaching western Ohio sometime in the early morning hours of Monday. I can't give you a specific time because the models will probably change this a million times. So, but it'll be sometime early Monday more than likely. Central Ohio, kind of mid-morning, and eastern Ohio, kind of early mid-morning for Central Ohio, and then Eastern Ohio. But you can see that, the whole line does go straight through Ohio. It's going to be kind of hard to avoid it in the whole state. So, but yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on Ohio, really Sunday night going into Monday morning. So, let's see here. How's Houston, Texas going to look like? Houston, I believe, is in the level 1. Yeah, we do have that marginal risk here for Sunday. You're kind of on that tail end of the line here. Let's grab a sounding. Let's kind of see what the environment looks like. Seems like there is a bit of a capping inversion. You can see this warm layer in the lower atmosphere. Great moisture, very dry mid-levels could actually support hail growth, if we did have storms actually firing off pretty decently in this environment. Wind shear in our low levels is not really that strong. Mid-upper levels is decent. So as that rising air rises into the environment, eventually, there could be a pretty good amount of organization going on within these storms because of the higher wind shear in our mid-levels. Little concerned about that cap, though, but it still seems like, because of the sheer amount of forcing we're going to have from this cold front can literally punch through a cap kinematically, which honestly, is kind of crazy because you're literally the forcing from the cold front itself is literally forcing the air to shoot up into the environment, regardless of, the thermodynamics, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, but you're in the level 1 threat. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Let's see here. Kelly says, let's see, when will the wind pick up and how much rain on the backside of the snow for, let's see, I don't even know how you say that. Let me pull up your area real quickly. This is up in New York. So we're not in the risk here, I don't think, for severe weather. Yeah, per se, we're not in the threat for severe weather out here. But so you wanted to know really about the winds here. Okay, so we'll bring up our max accumulated wind gusts here for now. I'm pretty sure we do have enough support here. So obviously we actually have a bit of strong winds coming in here pretty soon, actually, or should be right about now. But then we have another set of winds that'll build into the region here with this next system to roll through. We could see some gusts, upwards of. Let's see here, possibly 40 miles an hour or so. That's typical. It's to be expected with this low rolling through. But, severe weather-wise, you're outside of that risk here. You also wanted to know how much rain. It depends on the models, really. It really does. I can pull up a couple of examples. We'll do total precipitation here. Let me actually go ahead and get rid of the wind gusts here for you. So in the area, we could pick up maybe a couple inches from the RRFS. If we look at the American GFS model here, it does show same thing, just in a lot lower res detail, but a couple of inches out towards the region can't be ruled out. We'll just have to see. The closer we get, the better, because we'll have more information and stuff like that. So. Let's see here. Candy says, thank you. Of course. Will Florence, Alabama be more wind? Yeah, just Alabama in general, I think we'll have still a bit of that wind concern overall here. Let's go ahead and progress down in time here. But yeah, still have the main line rolling through. Let me grab a sounding. We're just going to grab one in central Alabama here. This is for the morning of Monday, like early morning. Yeah, pretty good lower levels. Enough moisture. It makes sense. We're closer to the Gulf here. Enough instability. Pretty decent wind shear even in this environment. And honestly, the hodograph, we got some arching going on here. We got some, curvature to our hodograph. That's showing us that our lower levels are veering. The winds are changing direction and increasing with wind speed, with altitude. And that's the type of environment you'd want for like tornadoes. So I think, damaging winds and even tornadoes could be a concern in that environment. Remember, this is one model, one run, but just generally speaking, that environment could be good for maybe some tornadoes too. Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and scroll down a little bit. I'm a little bit far behind. I really apologize, you guys. If I accidentally go over your question, just retype it. Don't spam though. Um, anyways, let's see. Mesomat, good to see you, dude. Say, what's my thoughts on Owensboro, Kentucky? Let me pull up it. Let's go and pull it up and see what we got going on here. That's right. You're kind of in Western Kentucky. Gotcha. All right, so yeah, we do have that main line coming through. It'll be probably later Sunday. You are in that level 3 enhanced risk. Like we mentioned, the probability breakdown from the Storm Prediction Center is not yet available. What I mean by that is the tornado probability, the damaging wind, or the hail probability. In percentage is not yet available. It'll be available tomorrow's update. But if I do grab a sounding here, and just generally looking at the environments, our lower levels, once again, we do actually have some pretty decent amount of dry air in our lower atmosphere, towards the surface here. And like we were mentioning earlier, this could actually enhance damaging winds. Because as you have, that downdraft come through, and you have the, that rain that goes into this drier environment, it actually, there's something called evaporative cooling, which I'm not sure if you've heard of before, but basically, as that water comes through this drier layer, some of that water actually gets reabsorbed back into the atmosphere. And this actually cools the air down. The opposite of this would be latent heat, but this is evaporative cooling. So basically, it's actually cooling the air by the water droplets being transitioned from a liquid state to a gaseous state. So as that air comes down, it actually cools the environment. As it reabsorbs back into the air, in which this could actually enhance damaging winds. So, with that being said, this particular environment, tornadoes, I don't know. It seems like the base could be a little bit elevated. We'll just have to see. But main threat, damaging winds for sure. High shear environment, definitely. Let's see. We'll get more data on this by tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. Anthony, I got you, my friend. Let me go ahead and pull up your zip code here, see what we got going on. Yeah, so this is for like West Central Tennessee. Gotcha. Pretty similar environment to where we just looked at. Actually the RFS, like we mentioned, just mostly shows a big line coming through these areas. Good enough instability, pretty strong wind shear. I think good enough moisture. This is actually a pretty decent little sounding here. This is kind of saying that all hazards could be a bit of a concern. I see a threat for maybe some damaging winds. Maybe some spin-ups can't be ruled out. Hail, maybe not as much in this particular sounding, but I think mainly damaging winds and potential for maybe a couple spin-ups can't be ruled out. So, what do I think about Northern Illinois? This is a little good. Yeah, we actually talked about Northern Illinois. So the problem with Northern Illinois is, the storm mode becomes very messy. And a lot of it's because of the lack of instability or CAPE, but also weaker moisture advection up this high up latitude. So being this high up, not as much moisture approaches this area. There'll be enough for some storms, of course, but the capacity of how much water vapor that the lower levels can hold would be much lower up in this environment, which could affect definitely the severity of these storms here. So, bottom line, yes, you're in a threat for severe weather, but the environment down here or up here really isn't as good as, say, areas further south, where you have more moisture, have more instability, stuff like that. So, while your area does have stronger wind shear, but there, like I said, there's some trade-offs, being that of moisture and instability. But regardless, you need to keep an eye on it. You're in the risk area from the Storm Prediction Center, but I personally don't believe your area will be as significant as areas further south of you, and the SPC agrees on that, obviously. Let's see here. Do I think my area could go enhanced on Monday? It depends on models and the SPC, honestly. I can't tell you yes or no, because, we simply just don't know right now. I think the north is less likely for tornadoes, but for damaging winds. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the further north you go, I think the tornado probability would go down quite a bit. Because of elevated storms. I think that would really affect the tornado potential higher up north latitude. I think the main tornado potential will actually be pretty far to the south, personally. Let's see. Sleeveless says, yeah, I saw this, and I'm like, no way. And there's someone in southern Indiana that may get a spin-up tornado in person clearing. Huh? Southern Indiana. Here, let's just grab a sounding up by Southern Indiana. I'm curious because I don't think this environment. Let's see, lift the condensation level here. Let me bring this down here real quickly. I do want to load up the. There was a way that I could change the. Oh, here we go. The units. Perfect. We'll use Imperial for a minute. So, yeah, these are pretty elevated storm bases here. I mean, this is showing the lifted condensation level at like 5,000 feet, which would typically be too high for tornadoes. And that's really achieved because, our lower levels are pretty, a lot drier than further to the south. Our wind shear is pretty decent still, but this is a classic example of where I don't think tornadoes would be as much of a concern, but I think that damaging winds would be. So we'll see. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be any tornado threat. I'm just saying that, the maximum threat would be actually damaging winds and stuff like that. So, let's see. Munn says, is Whitwell, Tennessee getting bad as Sunday? Let me pull this up. I know that Tennessee definitely has a pretty good concern for Sunday. SPC has you, I believe. Hey, let's see. I believe we're in that level 2 threat here. Yep, so we're in the slight risk here for pretty much later Sunday, sorry. So yeah, you're definitely in the threat here. The line still is intact by the time it approaches you. Main concern, damaging winds once again for you. What's the greatest threat for Indianapolis? I'm in the level 3. The biggest concern for Indianapolis area would be damaging winds by far. Do I think the enhanced risk will expand? There's no way of me knowing this. It depends, once again, on the models and the Storm Prediction Center's opinion. We'll see. You're in the level 2 threat. You're not far from the enhanced, but, once again, it just depends on models and stuff. Jason wants me to pull a sounding for Fairfield, Virginia. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, let me go ahead and pull this up here. So Fairfield, Virginia. All right, so let's bring you guys back over here. So for Sunday, we don't have a threat, but I do know that Monday we do. Monday, we do have, let's see here. I believe we're in you're right on the line between the 15% and the 30%. Okay, so you're in the 15% risk here. So right now, the Storm Prediction Center here for Monday has you in what's equivalent to a slight risk, a level 2 severe weather threat. But yeah, you're in the area. The storms, honestly, the mode is, I'm kind of waiting to see what the HRRR kind of suggests, but the RFS earlier was showing kind of a broken line, maybe a couple just pop-up storms, just scattered storms. But now it seems like the RFS kind of suggests maybe a bit of a line coming through. Like we'll bring up the model from earlier today. I think we were looking at the 12 Zulu earlier. And you can see that it's a total different outcome, showing kind of a line, and then it's a bunch of prefrontals. Versus now, what the RFS suggests is it's just pretty much just one big line. Yeah, so there's a big change in the models here. I'm kind of just waiting to see, what the HRRR agrees on, what the HRRR says, and what we can agree upon between both models, really. So, it's not really a good thing just to look at one specific model and trust it with full potential. But, once we start getting more models coming through, then we'll definitely have a much bigger picture here overall. So, anyways, let's see here. Evan, dude, thank you so much for the $10 Cash App donation, man. I appreciate it. Say, I do such a great job. I hope this helps a little. Absolutely, man. Evan, thank you so much, dude, for the $10 Cash App. You did not have to do that, dude. I really appreciate it. And it absolutely helps me a lot. It helps with the bills and stuff. And I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And it definitely helps out a lot. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, dude. If you guys could, please give Evan a big thank you in the chat. It'll be much appreciated. Really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Ice Cream says, when I get a chance, can I pull up a sounding for your area for me? Thanks. Yeah, absolutely, dude. I got you. Let's go ahead and pull up this area real quickly. So you are up in Alabama. So yeah, you're further south. These areas are going to have more moisture. Day 3. Yeah, we do have an enhanced risk out here, out by where you're at. Now, given models, if we bring up the models here, this is the RFS once again. So we do have this line coming through, so let's grab a sounding. It doesn't seem to be scattered. It seems, once again, still kind of just a bit of a line. Strong wind shear. I mean, even far this far south, honestly. Enough instability. Definitely high wind shear. Honestly, surprisingly, our dew points are a little bit lower than I would imagine them to be. I mean, there's that window. I mean, it's not as high, but I mean, still would supply enough moisture for storms. Absolutely. Once again, that drier lower levels could actually maybe enhance some damaging winds and stuff. So, I mean, it makes sense why you're in that risk, being the high shear environment, enough instability, and, those lower levels could definitely support it. It's the same as it is for a lot of people, just basically one big line coming through here. I'll go ahead and show you guys the big picture here. You can see, you can see as we approach our way into Sunday, you can really see that there's just a big line develops here. I mean, just a huge line. And honestly, from what the model suggests now, the RFS, which we're looking at right now, you can see that there's not a lot of prefrontals. And what I mean by that is a bunch of storms popping off in the warm sector of this event. So essentially, simply what's going on here, and you have your cold front. Here, let's go ahead and draw this in black. So you have your cold front right here, which is right on the line of storms, right? So this separates two air masses. You have a colder, drier air mass back here pushing this way, kind of steering the motion of the storm. And then, of course, you got the warm and moisture-filled air ahead of it. This is actually perpendicular to the other air mass. So it's actually bringing up a lot more moisture, a lot more warmth. But, the advection's not as strong as, say, last event was. Meanwhile, the wind shear is stronger. What I mean by wind shear is just the winds throughout the lower to upper atmosphere are very strong, and a lot stronger than the last two events we actually had. But the problem is that we don't pull up as much moisture as we did on the last event. So it's kind of evens out for the most part. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that's just basically the big picture of what's going on there. But yeah, we just really have this big line. As of now, there's not a lot of support for any prefrontals, except for, whoa, my goodness. What's going on in Florida? This is like out by me. I'm going to grab a sounding for myself, actually. I'm curious. This is Monday afternoon. Wow, that's some fat cape. Fat cape, good moisture. Mostly speed shear. I don't see much veering. Wow, dude. I might need to watch out for Monday myself. Holy cow, I'm actually in the marginal. Some of these look pretty gnarly. I mean, very, very, I mean, there's a lot of variety here. There's a lot of storms potentially firing off. Anyways. Yeah, I need to keep an eye on this myself, actually. That's pretty wild, man. That's pretty crazy. Anyways. Evan says, how are we looking in southern Illinois? I heard some tornadoes and strong winds. Yeah, so mainly damaging winds will be the biggest concern. We just have that big line coming through. I'll grab a sounding here. Dew points upper 50s, which is good enough. We have enough instability. It's not an absolute absurd amount, really. We definitely do have a pretty good amount of instability. Wind shear wise, we have a lot of strong winds throughout the atmosphere. This would definitely contribute to, maybe some damaging winds really being the main concern here. Tornadoes, I mean, we are pretty elevated from this particular sounding. What I mean by elevated is the storm base is pretty high, which typically you'd want that to be pretty darn low. But yeah, I mean, main threat, definitely damaging winds here. No way, dude. Evan just came in with a $50 Cash App donation on top of the 10. Dude, you are an absolute legend, man. Holy cow. Evan, my man, thank you so much, dude. That is really nice of you. Let's see, get something good to eat or whatever. I will, man. Thank you so much, Evan. That means the world to me, dude. That helps me out way more than you could think. Huge shout out goes back again to Evan. Guys, if you could, please give Evan another thank you. I really appreciate it, man. You did not have to do that. That is really sweet of you, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. You really made my night, man. That really helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, dude. Thank you so much. I could never say it enough, so you'll probably hear me say thank you another couple times. But thank you so much, man. That is really sweet of you, dude. let's see here. Do I think that the SPC risk could be expanded? So, like I said, with my opinion on any of the SPC expansions or whatever, like I said, it depends on the models and how they trend, for one, but also it depends on the Storm Prediction Center. I'm not going to give you guys the info, because I wouldn't be able to tell, if the models do change by then. It's strictly up to the Storm Prediction Center. It's up to the models and what they continue to show. So we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. But could I grab a sounding for Cleveland area? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can do that for you, but, for me telling you if it's going to be expanded, I can't tell you that because, a lot of things, there's a lot of variables on the table, and, I would be lying if I told you that, which I'm obviously not going to do. Anyways, but hopping back to the models. Now, Cleveland's not under the risk, really, here for Sunday. I don't even think Monday SPC has you in that risk. Yeah, so, I mean, officially from the Storm Prediction Center, Cleveland's not in the risk. However, the line would still continue into these regions, as you can kind of see. Let me grab a sounding. I wouldn't be surprised if at least, well, ooh. I don't like that. There's a bit of a warm layer in our mid-atmosphere. Could definitely slow down growth. I mean, enough moisture, once again, ridiculously strong wind shear. I don't know, man. I don't know. This environment's kind of iffy. It really is. I mean, that warm layer just kind of hurts a bit. But the line still fires off. I mean, RFS does show it, but the line would not likely be as significant here. But this could easily change in the next run. Here, let me grab a sounding from the previous run. I'm curious to see. We'll go back to the 18 UTC run here from this model. All right, let's just grab a sounding right here. This is for 8 a.m. on Monday. I'm curious. Yeah, still that warm layer is there. Not a lot of instability either, so yeah. It makes sense actually why they don't have Cleveland in the risk as of now, but we'll see what happens. There could be things could change essentially. So, oh really, Oliver? Awesome. Let's see here. Christy. Ice Cream says in a few months I'm moving to Tampa, Florida. I can't wait to get out of Alabama. Yeah. I hear you. It's a different world down here, I'll tell you that. Christy. Glenn said, so to east, it won't be singular storms, it'll be a line for sure. East Tennessee. For the most part, yeah, the models do show pretty much a line, but this particular run shows it kind of breaking up into a bunch of just scattered storms. The latest RRFS run keeps it intact as a line. It's hard to say, honestly. It is. Because, the opinion from the RFS between the 18 Zulu and the 0 UTC run, it literally, it's night and day difference. You have the line for this particular run, and the previous run is a bunch of scattered storms here, really. Let's see here. Glenn says, so in East Tennessee, I literally just read that comment. Let's see here. Caden says the wind shears what scares me. Yeah, this is definitely a really high shear environment here. Let's actually bring up our lower level winds. We'll bring up our 850 millibar wind speeds, which, you can see that jet is ripping. That is a ripping lower level jet. Yeah, very strong lower level wind shear. This is at 850 millibar height, which this is about 4,000 feet up in the air. So it's, that's fairly shallow. It's not that high up. But then you compare with the 700 millibar wind speeds, which that bumps it up to 10,000 feet. Remember, I put the lines here. The wind direction actually changes slightly. You can kind of see. So there's your veering, your veering lower levels. So, the shear is there for tornadoes. The instability and the moisture, it's iffy for areas further up north. I think further south would have a better tornado potential. Really, I really think so. So we'll definitely just keep an eye on it. Definitely a really high sheared environment here. Here, let me pull up our dew points as well. We'll just take a look at that. Good to see that moisture advection. See what we got going on here. Holy cow, Christy! Yo, dude. Christy coming in with a $50 super chat. No freaking way, dude. Christy, thank you so much for the 50. Holy cow. You guys are super generous. I cannot thank you all more than enough. Christy, thank you so much for that. That is really nice of you, my friend. That means a lot. It helps me out a ton. Christy, you are awesome. Seriously, thank you. If there's anything I can do for you guys, please do not hesitate to ask. I am more than happy to help. But Christy, thank you so much for that. Oh my gosh, that's really nice of you. I really appreciate it. Huge shout out to Christy. If you guys could give Christy a big thank you, I really appreciate it, Christy. Thank you once again so much. I really appreciate you guys. Evan, Christy, thank you guys seriously for the support. It means a lot to me. It helps out a ton. So thank you seriously so much. So looking at dew points here, yeah, we definitely do have most of our moisture remaining pretty far to the south. I mean, you can see our dew points here. Where it's in the blue. This is our dew points in the 60s, which is typically like where you'd really want those dew points to be. I mean, yeah, it'll work in the 50s in some cases, but when it comes to it, up further up north, I mean, you can see that those dew points are a lot lower. I mean, we're talking, lower 50s, even 40s in some spots up by the Ohio Valley. But down to the south, there's definitely a lot more moisture down here. So, and, as we go down through the event, I mean, you can see that some of that moisture in the 60s could reach some of these areas, but most of that moisture stays pretty far to the south here. That moisture advection's not nearly as strong on this event as it was on the last event. But look at that cold front, though. I mean, look at that air mass just take over. That is crazy. So that'll really dry out the environment. These lower dew points would definitely indicate drier air. Because once again, colder temps and lower dew points hold less water vapor than the warmer ones. Think of it as a capacity, right? So while you're in the warm sector, in those higher dew points, your tank is bigger. The maximum potential amount of water vapor you could hold is much larger, a much bigger tank. But in the cold, it's a lot more of a smaller tank. And humidity is how close that tank is to overflowing. Is pretty much what humidity is. Once again, it has nothing to do with everyone saying it's really humid outside. It's more of there's some high dew points outside is what really makes it feel muggy. But anyways, once again, Christy and Evan, you guys, I cannot thank you enough. You guys really made my night. I really appreciate the support. It helps out so much. Let's see here. Glenda says, just one last time before I go. You said my area shouldn't get as much compared to the west and east of me. Where were you at again? I'm sorry. We've been doing so many zip codes. I kind of forgot where that was at. Christy says, no problem. Coffee money. It's going to be a long season. That's fair. I think it will be a pretty long season. I mean, we got quite an early start, Like I said, as soon as we hit March, everything started blowing up here. So, yeah. But once again, Christy, thank you. Let's see here. How does Southwest Missouri and Northwest Arkansas areas look? So Southwest Missouri, Northwest Arkansas. So, at least moisture-wise, you can see that we have our dew points in maybe the mid to upper 50s for the most part. So, I mean, moisture is, it's not the best, but it's enough. If I grab a sounding in this environment, we do have some pretty strong mid-level shear. Lower-level shear isn't anything to, go crazy over, but we have a little bit of a warm layer in our mid-atmosphere that could definitely hurt some storms. Our instability isn't that high, but I mean, regardless of all that, we'll still likely see some strong storms out through the area. Let me bring up our composite reflectivity here. We'll do this one here. So yeah, you can see that line does roll through. It does start popping off across this area, but right now SPC has you in that slight risk here, and right now we don't have that exact breakdown probability. Let's see here. Dry cold is nowhere near as bad as wet cold. That's fair. Yep. And one of the things that I know this is totally random, but it actually has to do with, obviously with weather, but there is something called the wet bulb temperature. I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but the way that I can best explain the wet bulb temperature, and it could really make moist air feel a lot colder. That's actually where I got that from. So think of it as like, you get out of a pool. Have you guys ever had, a moment where you've gotten out of a pool and your swimming trunks or your swim clothes become like really cold, even though the temperature outside's warm? So there's something called the wet bulb temperature. And that's like the best way I could explain it is basically, let's see here. How do I explain this? I don't think I'm going to get too far into detail with this, but the best way I'd explain it is like maybe I'll make a separate video on this because I did make a video on the temperature, dew point, and humidity. But yeah, I'll just make a video on this at one point, and we'll explain it then. There's no need to explain it right now. Let's see here. But that's true though, Roby. Absolutely. It's cool in Pinellas and rainy-ish. Yeah. It was actually. I mean, it's definitely cool here. Moisture is still pretty high over here as well, over in Lakeland. And I did see some rain out there earlier. Actually, here we'll pull up our radar real quickly. I do have the Tampa radar saved as my default. Yeah, we got some remaining precip out here. But yeah, dew points are in the mid 60s, but humidity's pretty high because our temperature's right on our dew point. Oops. Let's see. Am I going to get some severe weather in Tampa, Florida? Yeah, Tampa will be in the risk here for what is it, Sunday? Yeah, Sunday we have a risk here. Let's hop back over here. We'll hide our dew points for a minute. Yeah, you can see that marginal, goes through the entire peninsula. We actually have a level 2 slight risk in the Panhandle, the Western Panhandle. All right, Glenda, I got your zip code here. Here, let's pull this up real fast for you. We'll see what we got going on here. Let's see here. Oh, you're up in Tennessee. Oh, that's right. So what was your previous question that you were wanting? Just one time before I go, you said my area shouldn't be get as much compared to the West. Yes, that is true. That is true, Glenda. Absolutely. Yeah, once we get into this environment here where you're at in Eastern Tennessee, once that line approaches, we're still trying to figure out if it's going to be, a bunch of multicellular thunderstorms, kind of from a broken line, or if it's more of a, linear event here. I'll grab another sounding just to confirm. Yeah, this is a very low CAPE environment. There is almost no instability in this environment at all. The most unstable layer is only 181 joules per kilogram. For reference, that is extremely low. One thing I will mention, though, is our wind shear is high. This is a really high wind shear, low CAPE environment. Moisture, lower 50s. Meh. It doesn't look like a good environment, honestly. Now, not ruling out storms, but, for anything like big and damaging, it didn't scream out to me. Let's see here. I heard severe weather for all of Ohio is going to be pretty nasty this year. It could be. All right. Is that purple for wind or hail? What purple? Are you talking about the dew points here? This is just surface moisture, basically. If this is what you're talking about down here, the purple, that's the only purple I remember seeing. But this is just telling us we have high dew points, which doesn't always mean that there's like big hail. Typically for hail, you'd want a really moist, high moisture content in your lower atmosphere at your surface. And then as you go up in the mid levels, you want it to dry a bit. That's where, the wet bulb comes into play. But like I said, I'm not going to dive into all that right now. I understand it completely, but it's just hard for me to put it in words. The best way I can explain it is, like I said, just basically you go swimming, you get out of out of the pool, and how your swim trunks become really cold, even though that the temperature is pretty warm out there. And a lot of that has to do actually with evaporative cooling, like we were mentioning earlier. Basically, as the air flows over your swimming trunks, it actually slowly absorbs some of that water into the air, and by doing so, turning from a liquid to a gaseous state actually cools the air. That's why it feels colder. That's about as far as I'll go in telling you what wet bulb does. And you can basically measure the rate of evaporative cooling with the wet bulb temperature, which is good for hail. Which is really good for hail. Oversteer, thanks for the $2, man. I appreciate it, dude. I appreciate it. You lived in St. Pete for years ago. Yeah, that's not far from me. I live in Lakeland. What's up, Scott? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Ryan says, "Will I get an ice storm on Monday?" I read that as ice cream in the beginning. Will I get an ice cream on Monday? It depends where you're at, Ryan. You said you're in Ontario. It's not every day we really do forecasts for Canada, but I can pull it up for you. Maybe if our models go up that high, they do. This is really high up north. The moisture's not even going to reach you, honestly. Yeah, you're not going to see any severe weather. You might see some strong winds though, because you're going to be pretty close to that low. Even up there. So, but talking about an ice storm. Let me bring up the. We'll bring up the precip type reflectivity here, if I can even find it under winter. What the heck? Where's it at? Oh, I already have it enabled. Duh. There it is. Yeah, Canada's going to get pretty big winter storm out of this here, and you can see, where that ice would be. Yeah, some freezing rain, maybe some sleet. That's where you got that warm air mixing into, your lower levels, while the temperature on the surface is freezing. Wow, look at that inversion. Holy cow. Yeah, so this is a prime example. So here's your freezing point, right? So that's basically, the freezing point. This is your isotherm of freezing temps. Basically, everything on this side of the graph is below freezing temperatures. Everything on this side is above freezing temperatures. And this is simply just altitude over temperature. So as you can see, the red, this is your temperature. At the surface, we're below freezing. As you go up in the altitude, there's a pocket in the lower mid levels of the atmosphere that actually becomes above freezing. And this allows any snow to actually melt into water droplets and then refreeze before contact. That would be sleet, but if it doesn't have enough time to refreeze completely, it would fall as rain and freeze as freezing rain. But to answer your question, yeah, there will be. Let's see here. Did I hear about 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts today in Ohio? I did not. Wow. I knew they were supposed to get some pretty strong winds, but I didn't know there was any 90 observed. That's crazy. Error wants to know, how is zip code looking like for Sunday? Let's see. Let's go ahead and pull it up here real quickly. We'll hop back over here. Okay, so you're in a level 2 slight risk here. This is out by the Chattanooga area. Yeah, so we have a level 2 slight risk. We definitely need to be weather aware. As far as the line goes, here we'll go ahead and just actually let's get rid of composite reflectivity. We don't need that. We'll just keep precipitation type on. This is a really high sheared environment. What I mean by that is that the winds throughout the atmosphere from the lower to upper levels are very strong, which could definitely help organize severe weather and stuff. Our moisture content, it could be better. Mid 50 dew points, it's enough. It could get storms going off. There's enough moisture to supply, the storms with moisture, or there's enough moisture to supply the storms with, the water vapor it needs to eventually condense and transition from a gaseous state to a liquid state. But there is a little bit of instability. It's not an absurd amount of instability, really. That's your main limitation for severe weather. But there's a little bit of a curvature on our hodograph here. But see, LCL is honestly not that high. Only 1,300 feet. In theory, that could support tornadoes. Yeah. We'll see. I think the main threat's going to be damaging winds. Maybe tornadoes could be a concern. Let's see here. Overseer says, "Hey Andrew, has Sunday been uptrended for my area?" Overseer, give me your zip code and I'll look at it. Let's see. Ruby says, "Thanks again, Overseer and Evan and Christy, for supporting Andrew." Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Sounds good, Ruby. Thanks for joining. Now you want ice cream. Me too. I could go for, I could go for right now? A Blizzard from Dairy Queen. Sounds good. What's up, Free Thinking? Good to see you. Hey, Andrew, here we go again. Go ahead, give my news, please. Absolutely. I got you, Free Thinking. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind in the chat, as you can probably tell. But anyway, so Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, yeah, you do have a threat here for actually Sunday going into Monday. For Sunday, you have that marginal risk, but remember, it's just kind of one big line that rolls through. But you, going into Monday, we actually do have a slight risk here. I mean, at level 2 equivalent severe weather threat, 15% chance probability. So that's already equivalent to a slight risk, a level 2 threat here for Monday. Yeah, definitely need you to be weather aware. Now doing a bit of a breakdown here. Actually, I'll show you where you're at real quickly. So there you go. There's that 15% right here. But yeah, doing a bit of a breakdown in the environment. As that line does come through, according to the RFS, the latest run honestly just shows a bunch of scattered convection. I mean, kind of a broken line essentially. It's not necessarily one solid line, but it does appear pretty broken. Let's grab a sounding out here. This area down south has a lot more moisture as opposed to areas up north. Wind shear is pretty strong. I will say that. The winds throughout the atmosphere is pretty strong, pretty good. Moisture, mid 60 dew points, great amount of moisture, tons of instability. Yeah. I'm not trying to worry you or anything. I know how much you hate your severe weather and stuff, but, I got to be honest with you. This looks like a decent environment for severe weather. Given the strong wind shear values, enough instability, and a good supply of moisture. I mean, the three main ingredients are there. They are. So we'll see. Obviously, I'll be here to keep you up to date. You know that. Try not to worry about it in the meantime. I mean, the models could change a little bit, but I do think that you're going to have a bit of a concern here for Monday. So we'll see what happens. But try not to worry about it. I know you worry about your severe weather. Don't worry about it. It'll be all right. Let's see here. What's up, Anthony? Good to see you. Hope you're doing good, dude. Let's see here. Squashy, what's up? What's my opinion on zip code? Let me pull it up here. If it'll let me copy your zip code. It copied for Monday as well. I need to remove that. Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. So you, my friend. Oh yeah, you're up in the Philadelphia area. Gotcha. So yeah, I mean you are in a 15% from the from the Storm Prediction Center here, but I don't know if we're gonna get enough. I don't know if we're gonna get a lot of moisture. Actually, you know what? The RFS actually supports there being quite a bit of moisture up here. Kind of a big line, as you can kind of see here. Here, let's grab a sounding. This is for 2 p.m. on Monday. You know what? I'm actually genuinely kind of impressed with this environment here. 100 knots of winds between 9 and 12 kilometers. Wow. That's really strong winds. So throughout the atmosphere, we do have a lot of really strong winds, which will help organize these storms, keep them going efficiently. Like I mentioned before, having strong wind shear can ensure separation between your intake and your outtake. Good amounts of moisture, surprisingly, lower 60 dew points. Once again, enough instability, good wind shear. There's actually a bit of a dry level in the mid-atmosphere right here. You can kind of see that, and that could promote maybe some hail growth. We'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely an environment where severe weather could be quite possible. Main threat, I think, is going to be damaging winds still. Here, let's pull up the sounding again. Hold on. I didn't look at the veering. Hodograph is mostly linear. I mean, you can see it's mostly just a straight line, but there's a little bit of curvature. I mean, just a tiny bit. Our effective inflow layer helicity is 180, which isn't extreme, but I wouldn't rule out tornadoes. But I don't think they're the main concern, personally. See, I could go for Chick-fil-A spicy delight. Oh, that sounds good, but they're already closed. Yeah, unfortunately. Let's see here. Anthony says, so I got caught up in a tornado in southwest Mississippi. Really? Holy cow, dude. I'm glad you're okay, man. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Too cold in Michigan, but I do have land in Kentucky. Chris, did you know I used to live in Kentucky? I lived in Virginia. I grew up in Virginia my whole life, or most of my life, for 20 years. And then I lived in Kentucky for 1 year, and then I've been in Florida for... I've been in Florida since 2023. But I've been here because I have family down here. Actually, I've visited for a couple of months at a time before I moved here. So I've been here a lot. What's up, Rochi? Good to see you. Say happy Saturday. I'm a little concerned about Monday's storm system. Yeah. If I could check zip code and provide some information about it, it'd be greatly appreciated. Yeah, no problem, dude. I got you. Let's see what we got going on for you. Here, let's hop you over here. I want to go and look at your risk first of all. Okay, yeah. So you are in the enhanced level 3 equivalent. So you're in that 30% chance probability for severe weather. Now, the models are still a little torn on between it being a line of storms or a broken type of setup. What I mean by broken is multicellular. As you can see, I mean, this particular model run of the 0 UTC shows kind of a broken line here with maybe a few multicellular storms. We'll have to see. The previous run before that, as you're going to see, looked pretty different, actually. The previous run before that showed, a lot more scattered storms. The main line still somewhat intact. So the models are obviously still evolving, for what we could expect, especially expect, or what we could expect. But I'm going to grab a sounding here, kind of in the warm sector. I don't want to get it on the cold front. I want to get it just before the cold front happens. So let's just grab a little sounding out here. So honestly, there's not a lot of instability. There's a lot of strong wind shear. We have a good enough amount of moisture. I mean, there definitely could be some strong to severe storms in this particular environment here. Here, let me try maybe a little bit closer. This is a little bit further away from me, but I want to try a little closer to the line here. There's enough instability. Most unstable air is only 400 joules per kilogram, though, according to this model. But it is a high sheared environment, though. That's the thing. Here, let's grab another one down here. Prince William County. It's really hard to say, man. Here, let's try the previous run. We'll go back to the 18 Zulu. 18 UTC. Here we go. Maybe we'll grab one up over by you. If it'll let me click on it. Okay, wow. So what a drop in the trends here from the two runs. This particular run shows a lot more CAPE, a lot more instability, and pretty well distributed through the atmosphere. A little bit of a dry mid-level atmosphere. Really strong kinematics, really strong wind shear. Models are consistent on the wind shear. That's going to be no doubt. Yeah, man, it's really hard to say. The line's passed at this particular hour. Yeah, not nearly as much instability though from the newest run. So we'll just have to see it. I really want to see when the HRRR comes into play because then it could really give us more information. That the W lady wants me to look at Rome, Georgia. Absolutely. Yeah, Georgia is in a pretty decent threat here. Come to Monday. Okay, Rome, Georgia is actually northwest, so your threat's going to be Sunday. Yep, we got a level 2 slight risk here for Sunday for you. Now, you know how I do everybody. I'm going to break down the environment for you. So it looks like just a big line of storms. We call it QLCS, fancy term for a long line of storms. Whoa. Okay. So the first thing I notice is our hodograph. Look at that curvature to it. So that tells us that our lower levels are veering. Our lower level winds are moving pretty much to the north. As you go up in altitude, the wind direction changes to the northeast. And that's causing our hodo to look a little curvy. And because of that, that's a typical sounding you'd look for tornadoes. I'm not trying to worry you, but I'm just being straightforward here from what the models are showing. Storm base height, the lifted condensation level, the point at which a rising air parcel would finally reach 100% humidity. So the storm base would be roughly 2,000 feet, which, yeah, I mean, it's low enough. Kinematically, I mean, this could support tornadoes. I think so. Instability-wise, I mean, we're not seeing an absurd amount of instability, but there's enough for storms. There is enough for storms. The wind shear kind of makes up for that. It really does. Bottom line is, damaging winds absolutely going to be the main concern. Just based off storm mode, squall lines are mostly damaging wind producers. And don't get me wrong, they can produce tornadoes too. I think tornadoes and damaging winds are going to be the main concern here. Absolutely. Let's see here. It missed your house by 3/4 of a mile. That's crazy, dude. That is crazy. Let's see here. Free Thinking says thank you. Of course. Let's see here. What's up, Angel? Good to see you. What about Lansing, Illinois? Let me see. Here, let's pull up Lansing. So I know that northern Illinois is going to have less instability and less moisture. Oops, wrong area. Let's pull up Michigan. There we go. Yeah, so your area out here by the Chicago region. So the way that it looks, well, first of all, you might even get some snow out of this event here. I know it's kind of crazy going from severe weather to snow. You know, you get this cold front that rolls through and it starts cooling things down. You know, there actually could be quite a few snow showers on the back end for some of these areas that actually get the severe weather, which is kind of crazy. You know, going from severe weather to snow, you know, it just shows you, you know, really how strong the system is. But, you know, the line, I mean, according to the models, will probably be weaker up there. I mean, you're in the level 2 threat. You can see there's not a lot of instability. Our most unstable layer is only 174 joules per kilogram. That is a low amount of instability. Our dew point's in the lower mid 50s. One thing that the environment has going for it is the wind shear, though. You know, really strong wind shear, and even a little amount of instability, you know, with this high of wind shear could explode into some severe storms. But I don't know, man. I'm not super confident for anything extreme happening up this high up north, at least from what this model suggests. But you still got to remember, I mean, SPC does have you in that slight risk. I mean, I could see where, you know, if there's a bit more instability, maybe a little bit more moisture content, where this could be a really decent concern. And given that we do have the kinematics in place, I mean, we'll just have to kind of see how that plays out. Once again, I kind of want to see the HRRR2 when it becomes available, which is still a little bit early. Tomorrow we'll have that available. So anyways, bottom line, keep an eye on it. Definitely watch out for severe weather here on Sunday. But do I think it'll be as crazy as some of the other areas? I don't think so. For this Pacific region, I think you're a little too high up north for anything extremely crazy. But you never know. You never know. It really depends on what the environment actually looks like come to the time of. You know what I'm saying? That's a big part of it. Anyways. Let's see here. Let's see here. Repent wants me to look at North Carolina. What do I see? I really appreciate it. Yeah, no problem. Here, let's pull this up here for you. See what we got going on in your area. So you're up in. Okay, so you're up by kind of west central North Carolina. Gotcha. So you are in that level 3, that orange area here. This is actually considered the enhanced risk region, you know, equivalent to an enhanced risk here. You know, 30% chance probability of severe weather. Now, looking at the RRFS model, it appears once again to be kind of a line to roll through. Let's see here. I mean, definitely could see some strong winds, you know, just from the nature of the line itself. But let me break down the environment here. Really strong kinematics. I mean, that's how it is for a lot of people, for most of the areas. It's strong wind shear. I mean, this event's going to be causing a lot of strong winds throughout the atmosphere. Not necessarily just on the surface, but also mostly in the upper atmosphere, which can help organize storms. We are seeing our dew points in the upper 50s, which is enough moisture. But there's a little bit of a warm layer here, which could hurt some storms developing. And I think that's kind of why, you know, as we go through the models, you know, this kind of seems like a bit of a broken line. There could be a little bit of a hard time for these storms to go off. But, I mean, you are in that 30%. And remember, this is just one model run. I do want to compare this with the 18 Zulu, though, the previous run before this. It's really weird, man. Just shows a bunch of scattered storms here. It shows more moisture in this particular environment. Yeah, see, it's a night and day difference between these two runs. So this is the older run. It shows a lot more instability. Our lower level, I mean, our dew points are actually pretty high. I mean, going from the upper mid 50s to the lower mid 60s. Big difference, both in moisture content and instability. Regardless, both models still show really high amounts of wind shear. But, I mean, yeah, we'll have to see what happens between the models. You know, the models still kind of need to marinate a little bit, given that, you know, this is 4 days out, basically. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I definitely need you to be watching the weather, though. I think damaging winds would be, like I said, the main concern, though, for you. Can I look at Philadelphia? Yeah. Yeah, we actually looked at Philadelphia a little bit ago, but I can pull it up for you again. Yeah, Philly will definitely be possibly in for quite a bit of strong to severe storms here. Good amount of instability. Really strong wind shear. And we were actually talking about that. Even the Philly area could advect. The moisture could advect a pretty good amount of moisture even for this area. So, yeah, it definitely looks like a pretty decent environment. Honestly, tornadoes could be a bit of a concern in this environment itself. Tornadoes and damaging winds. So, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's see here. Susan says, "Can I look at Florida, Louisiana?" Yeah, I got you. See here, Louisiana. Here we go. Okay, so you're kind of western Louisiana here. Gotcha. All right, so you are in a level 2. There you are. You're right here. So you are in a level 2 slight risk. You're actually pretty close to that enhanced risk here, that level 3 threat. Given you're pretty close to the Gulf, you're going to have a lot more moisture available. That's a given. Unlike some of these other areas, they kind of lack a little bit of moisture. You're not going to have that problem at all. There's going to be a lot of moisture. Dew points are going to be well in the 60s. So moisture, check that off. We have a lot of moisture here. So just before the line crosses through, you're up by many. Okay, so you're kind of right in here. I'm going to grab a sounding. This is for 9 p.m. on Sunday. You know what? There is a lot of dry mid-levels. Look at that. You know what? I'm going to tell you this. This could actually enhance a hail threat. Having those dry mid-levels with a pretty good amount of moisture on our surface. I mean, our wet bulb zero temperature is only 8,000 feet. That's what WBZ is. That could definitely enhance evaporative cooling. Yeah, maybe damaging wind. Oh, yeah, 1,100 decape. All right, so bottom line, sorry, I'm just kind of thinking of this in my head here. This is kind of a big concern, maybe for hail and damaging winds. Tornadoes, possibly. Our base seems a little high at 4,000 feet. There's also a little bit of a warm layer here. Let's try the next. Okay, you can see how the cold front starts rolling through and really really affecting the surface here. Eventually affects the mid-levels, but it does seem like there is a bit of a cap here. I don't know. But given the forcing from the cold front itself, should be able to burst right through that cap anyways. So, bottom line, though, damaging winds and hail, I think, would actually be kind of the main concerns. Maybe even a couple tornadoes. We'll see what happens. It depends on the LCL storm base height. That has a lot to do with it, determining if it's elevated or not. But yeah, I mean, definitely need you to be weather aware for sure. Let's see here. Raka says, "Can I see if my area is going to be bad?" Absolutely. Yeah, let's pull up this region here real quickly. You're up in Indiana. So you're in a level 3. Yeah, you're in the enhanced risk area. So that's just northwest of the Indianapolis region here. So, yes, definitely need you to be weather aware. Now, the thing about up here is we have less moisture, less instability, but we have stronger wind shear. That's the main differences, as opposed to areas further south. But, give or take, the line still will be very much intact. Let me grab a sounding. Very thin amounts of instability. Yeah, the most unstable layer is 429 joules per kilogram. Once again, high wind shear, given you're closer to that area of low pressure, that central low. Believe it or not, moisture is decent. I mean, we're talking upper 50 dew points. That's fine. That'll work. So, I mean, yeah, I see damaging wind potential on this here. I mean, can't rule out tornadoes either, really. I think that would be your main concern. Let's see. Let me scroll down a little bit here. I apologize, guys. I'm a little bit far behind in the chat, as you guys can see here. So, let's see here. Thank you. We see a few spin-ups around here. I'm a weather nerd. I had to get a second understanding. Thank you again. Just say weatherware as always. Good to see you. Yeah, you get it. You get what it's like being a weather nerd. I'm the same way. I'm the same way, as you can probably tell. But no problem. Let's see here. Your grill got flipped? Wow. Repent says, thank you, I'll be watching the weather. Don't want the wind. That's understandable. That's understandable. Let's see here. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for such a detailed forecast. I got to go to sleep, but I'll watch the rest later. Thank you for your hard work. Much appreciated. You're very welcome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Glenn says, I'm really worried about, for Monday's threat. I know you're telling me my ingredients aren't high. Seeing how close to slight risk to me on Monday makes me a little bit nervous. That's understandable, but yeah, try not to let it get to you. Try not to let it get to you. Susan says, thanks so much. You're very welcome. No problem. Let's see here. Chris says QLCS and supercells in front of the line. Believe it or not, mostly there's not a lot of prefrontals. This is mostly just one line of storms. I mean, you can see here, I mean, maybe for like the southeastern part of the U.S., for like Georgia, maybe like Florida, of course, we could see maybe some isolated severe storms, more of discrete. But, for majority of the region, it's mostly just a big straight line of storms here. There's not a whole lot of prefrontals. I mean, we got maybe a couple, but that's what models show as of now. That absolutely could change a little bit. Let's see here. My force says, I'm glad I came in here. Let's see, Northwest Maryland maps. I know what I had to let my family runs work Monday. I think you said I have friends in Philly, but one is weather watcher. Gotcha. Well, yeah, Maryland does need to keep an eye on this next event here. Just want to let you know. Rocky says, thanks. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. Anthony says, thank you, Andrew. He's got hands full tonight, don't he? He's pretty good, though. Oh, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, I do. I have quite a few comments I had to get to. You guys got to think, I'm one guy. I can only answer so many so quickly. So, and I like to take my time, too, as you could probably tell, and kind of go throughout throughout the atmosphere of, what the conditions could look like. It's a lot of people try to keep it, like, quick, which I can understand to getting to more people. But, like, me, sometimes I like to go in depth and explain why we're having stronger severe weather and what highlights more over another area, essentially. So, anyways. But, guys, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I finally caught up to chat. I feel like I haven't been caught up at all this entire stream, man. Holy cow. No, but I'm glad to see that a lot of you guys are, joining in and staying weather aware and, getting the update. That means a lot. That's all that matters. It's just, letting you guys know what we're in store for. I mean, look at this system, dude. This thing is what a beast, man. So you got the cold front. This is going to be driving all that severe weather, and then behind it, you got all this winter weather going on here. I mean, there's a lot of There's a lot of winter weather going on too. So maybe some ice as well. We could have a little bit of ice coming through for like southern Wisconsin, northern Michigan. Maybe a bit of snow too. Here, let's look at the snowfall forecast here. Let's see. We'll do 10-to-1. 10-to-1 ratio probably be better for this. Yeah, I like using Kashira for the events where there's a lot of light, powdery, fluffy snow. Typically where the atmosphere remains below freezing through all layers for an extended period of time. Precipitation, actually we'll do under winter, I believe. Let's see here. Where's that 10-to-1? I know you're around here somewhere. There we go. Holy moly. Wowza. Look at that. Really? RFS shows like maybe even areas of 2 feet of snow in Wisconsin and upper state Michigan. Let me compare that with GFS here. I need to see other models. Really? We're probably going to have, I mean, given how close you are to that low, the winds could be strong enough, maybe even some blizzard conditions here. Try Euro. Dude, central Wisconsin is at least getting a foot of snow. I mean, we just looked at the RFS, the GFS, and the Euro. They all show all over a foot of snow. That is crazy, dude. I honestly didn't even think that there'd be that much. I mean, I knew there'd be a lot, but holy cow. that's pretty crazy, man. That's wild. So yeah, we're definitely going to be getting quite a bit. Let's see here. This is more of a wind threat, right? Yeah, mostly a wind threat, but some areas actually allow for tornadoes, and all hazards I think are on the table. Can I take a look at Glen, Flora, Wisconsin? There's different snowfall totals. I don't know which one's more accurate. Yes. So there is a bit of disagreement between the Euro and GFS, as we saw. Oh, this is Texas. A little far away. Here we go. Glen, Flora, Wisconsin. Okay, you're up pretty high to the north. Yeah, I mean, I can't find you specifically on this. I wish there was a search option. I think I talked to the developer of this program, and he said at some point he would like to add a search bar where I can look up zip codes and stuff like that. So could really help. See, is that by Ladysmith area? Phillips. Oh, here we go. Here we go. There we go. We're getting there. Between Ladysmith and okay, so you're just like you're right up here. Okay, so we'll just say you're right here. So Euro shows about 13 inches roughly from the latest run. The GFS shows maybe 1.5 feet or so. Then you got NAM. NAM shows like 18 or so inches. Bottom line, honestly, models show well over 1 foot for the most part. So I would say that's definitely a good possibility. Let's see here. Ponderosa says enjoying the long streams. Yeah, I feel like we've been streaming a lot longer lately. This morning, we streamed, what was it, like 1 hour and 45 minutes, and we've been live already in over 1.5 hours here. So I just like helping you guys out. There's actually stuff to talk about now, which is why some of my other streams I don't stream as long, just usually if it's a quick update or whatever. But when there's a lot of people I can help out, as well as the event's decent, I like to stay here a little bit longer. Let's see here. Chris says it's going to start warming up soon. Yeah, it will. We've already kind of been seeing early signs of spring. I mean, hence what we've been seeing the last couple weeks here with all this severe weather. It's been crazy. It's been something else, man. But anyways, guys, if y'all have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask here. We're going to hop back to the RFS here. We'll go back to the U2C. Go back to the 0 UTC here. But anyways, look at that. So if we overlay the dew points to precip type and reflectivity, I mean, look at this. That is so satisfying to watch. Overseer says, Andrew, if you answer my question, I didn't hear it because my internet cut out. I had to ask my areas uptrending. If my areas have been uptrending in northeast Arkansas, Jonesboro. Gotcha. Well, we'll compare the 0 UTC RRFS to the 18 Zulu. I don't want to grab a sounding in the storm because it'll become fully saturated. Yeah. Let's go back a little bit. We'll go back to Sunday at 6 p.m. from the RRFS model. This is just ahead of the front. Ugh. Okay. We might have to. Anyways, we got some pretty strong wind shear. Definitely good enough moisture, lower 60 dew points, enough instability. Lower levels, a little interesting, but that shouldn't matter because we're going to have some strong forcing from that cold front anyways. But strong wind shear, good moisture, enough instability. We even have a little bit of curvature to our photographs here. Storm base slightly elevated. I think mainly damaging winds here. I do. Let me pop back to the 18 Zulu run here. I noticed that the 18 Zulu, the previous run, actually has the system farther behind, which is interesting. There's a difference in timing between the two runs. That just shows you there's a lot of uncertainty still. Good, a lot of instability still. Strong wind shear, dew points in the 60s still. Lower levels, we have a little bit of a cap on our lower level here. A little bit of a surface-based capping. But, like I said, given the sheer amount of lift we're having from this cold front and how strong it is, it will literally force that air up regardless. It'll push it up and through the LFC. So the LFC is basically the point at which the air parcel rising no longer needs support, where it can rise freely. But bottom line, yeah, definitely is a pretty decent environment. High kinematic, good moisture. I wouldn't call it a high CAPE environment, but it's enough CAPE. A lot of that has to do with our lapse rates. Here, let's pull apart the surface to 3 kilometer lapse rates. So this tells you how quick the temperature drops off over altitude. Pretty typical, 5-6 degrees Celsius per kilometer. And it's not anything glorified, but it's enough. It's steep enough lapse rates to get stuff going. But yeah, and then behind it, you got like 2 degrees Celsius per kilometer lapse rates, which is low, very low. Crazy. Diurnal heating really steepens those lower level lapse rates in Florida. That's what I'm saying. Florida's just a different breed. We are so different down here, dude. Like the people, the climate, everything's different in Florida. But anyways. Anthony says, I'm so concerned about Goodlettsville. What time do I think it'll happen? It's so hard to tell on timings right now. I mean, you just saw a minute ago how far off the RFS was between the 18 Zulu and the 0 Zulu. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely, there's definitely quite a bit of disagreement. But I'll pull up Goodlettsville real quick. I mean, I can give you a rough estimate. I can't give you timing, but I could give you I can't give you like an approximate time per se. Let's see here. So, you are kind of in the... It'll either be late Sunday or early Monday. That's literally all I can tell you at this point. Just due to the nature of how much in disagreement the models are right now. It'll likely be maybe sometime early Monday, but can't give you an exact time. Can I see what will be happening for Muscle Shoals, Alabama? Absolutely. Yeah, I got you. Let's see here. So, Muscle Shoals. Oh, this is out by Florence. Yeah, we did do some. We did actually look at this area not too long ago. Here, we'll pull this back up. So, given the RRFS, being that we're close to the Gulf, we have a lot of moisture. 60-degree dew points, perfect. Really strong wind shear, still being heavily influenced by those strong kinematics from that low, even though it's high up to the north. It's just such a strong low. It's really wrapping in those winds throughout the atmosphere. Enough instability. This environment, to me, says... You know what? I see damaging wind potential and tornado potential in the sounding. I do. We'll keep an eye on it. Haley, that's far from the truth. Do I think that the tornado threat's maximized around my area? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let's see. But anyways. All right, guys. I'm probably going to head off here pretty soon. We've been live a little over. We've been live for an hour and 40 minutes. Bit of an extended stream, but I'm going to probably head off here. I'm going to give me something to eat. I'm a little hungry. But I'm going to take one last... we'll take a couple more questions here, and then we'll roll off here. But I do want to say thank you, everybody who has joined. And once again, for all the kind love and support tonight on the donations and stuff like that. I really appreciate you guys. I really, really appreciate you guys. So just thank you guys seriously all for the kind love and support. Huge shout out to you guys. Let's see here. But yeah, big shout out goes to Divine, as well as Evan and Christy, as well as Oversteer, for all the kind love and support with the super chats and the Cash App donations. Like I said, once again, thank you guys. I can't say it enough, really. I really can't. Let's see. Could Central and Northern Wisconsin have a possibility of seeing power outages? I mean, given the heavy snow, it's possible. But power outages are more of a big problem for ice. I mean, you can have them in snow. Don't get me wrong. Heavy snow amounts. I mean, you could have people crashing into power poles, or snow doesn't, from what I know, doesn't really weigh down power lines much. More than ice and, like freezing rain and sleet really does. But given it's mostly snow, it lowers it a lot. Let's see. What about Paducah, Kentucky? Paducah is actually in the level 3 enhanced risk here. Yeah, so we definitely do got to keep an eye out for Paducah area. This will be coming through either late Sunday or early morning. So we do have a lot of strong wind shear. Our lower level, our moisture is in our upper 50s. Perfect. Good enough moisture. Strong wind shear. Enough cape. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see potential for damaging winds here for sure. Tornadoes, maybe not as much of a significant concern, but I feel like they couldn't be ruled out. The main concerns, damaging winds. Thanks for the birthday stream. Is it your birthday today, Squashy? If it is, happy birthday. Hope you stay safe out there in Tampa, Florida on Monday, my friend. I'm not in Tampa, but I'm near it, but thank you. I appreciate it. Same risk pretty much for Tampa as it is Lakeland, so. But anyways, folks, well, if you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like. It'll be much appreciated. But yeah, I think I'm going to head off for now. It's definitely getting a bit late. We've been live for quite a while, actually. So definitely happy to be live to give you guys more updates. We'll I'm not sure when the next stream will be, but we'll definitely hop back on here to give you guys more updates sometime soon. Squashy says yes. Well, once again, happy birthday, friend. Happy birthday to you. But all right, everybody. Well, I'll do one more question. If any of you guys have any question, I'll do one more question before I roll off here. Okay. But if not, then we'll probably just call it here. But yeah, bottom line, I mean, Sunday, Monday going to be pretty big days. We definitely need to look out for. We'll definitely keep you guys up to date with everything. We'll do some coverage as well, I'm sure. So we'll keep you guys in the loop. Squash says thank you. Of course. Repent says thank you. Yep, you're welcome. No problem at all. Anthony says, will I be going live on Sunday evening? If so, do I know about what time? I do not know a time, but I will likely be live on Sunday, or tomorrow, yes. I'm not sure what time, though, but just turn on notifications. That way, if when I do go live, you'll get notified, and that way you could see right when I go live. So, anyways, but all right, everybody. Well, thank you all for joining. Once again, big shout out goes to Divine, Christy, as well as Evan and Oversteer for the kind love and support tonight. And thank you everybody for stopping by. I appreciate y'all. And like I said, on your way out, if you guys could, maybe consider subscribing. If you haven't already, maybe leaving a like. It'll be much appreciated. When will Missouri get? You actually have a threat, for a level 1 marginal risk, Haley, for Sunday. Yeah, tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Well, for you, actually, I think it's 12:29 for you, actually. So, yeah, tomorrow, technically. Let's see. But, all right, everybody. Dan says thanks. No problem, dude. I got you. All right, you guys. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you guys. Just stay safe. Try not to worry about the weather. We'll get you guys through the event here once again. It's just, you know, we'll be here to help you guys out. And like I said, just try not to worry about it. We'll be all right. We'll get through it. And I'll be sure to keep on updating y'all on the weather. But all right, everybody. Thanks for joining. You guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your night. And we'll see you guys here for tomorrow. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.